Russia just discovered something on the Eastern Front they completely failed to anticipate, and it didn't arrive with a press conference, a Pentagon briefing, or a single headline in Western media. If you care about how this war actually ends, stay with me for the next few minutes, because what's unfolding right now along Ukraine's front lines changes the entire strategic picture. If you're new here, this channel tracks the intelligence, transfers, and battlefield developments that most analysts quietly avoid. Hit subscribe now and follow along daily, because this story is moving fast. Ukraine's 52nd Artillery Brigade posted what looked like a routine update, a social media announcement confirming the addition of new systems to their arsenal. Buried inside that post, almost casually, was the confirmation that shook every serious military analyst paying attention: the M110, a 203mm self-propelled howitzer, a weapon the world had written off as a Cold War relic, operational, in Ukraine. Right now, and before you ask, yes, this is the same gun the United States military officially retired decades ago. So where did Ukraine find 60 of them? The answer starts in Greece. In October of last year, Athens quietly approved the transfer of 60 M110 howitzers to Ukraine in a deal valued at approximately $199 million, just under $230 million USD. The package didn't just include the guns, it included 150,000 shells across 4 distinct types: 50,000 high-explosive M106 rounds, 40,000 rocket-assisted projectiles, illumination rounds for night operations, and armor-piercing munitions for hardened targets. The artillery and ammunition were routed through the Czech Republic. No fanfare, no ceremony. Just 60 heavy guns quietly crossing into a war zone that has consumed more artillery than any European conflict since World War II. And here's the detail that most coverage completely missed. Greece still holds an estimated 145 units in total inventory. As Athens continues its NATO modernization towards standard 155mm compatible systems, those remaining M110s are increasingly surplus. Whether additional transfers occur will depend on one thing: how these 60 perform in combat over the weeks ahead. Now let's talk about why this weapon, old as it is, matters so much, because the numbers tell a story that's genuinely alarming for Russian planners. Each M110 can fire a 98-kilogram shell to targets up to 30 kilometers away. For context, that's nearly 19 miles, deep enough to reach Russian staging areas, logistics corridors, and ammunition depots that were previously beyond Ukraine's conventional reach. The system is mounted on a tracked chassis with a 405-horsepower engine, giving crews the ability to fire, displace, and reposition before Russian counter-battery radar can acquire a lock. That mobility isn't a minor tactical advantage. In the artillery war that has defined this entire conflict, it is the difference between survival and destruction. The gun elevates between -2 and 65 degrees and traverses 30 degrees in either direction, giving crews a wide engagement arc across varied terrain. And even if primary hydraulic systems fail, manual backup systems keep the weapon operational. This is a machine built for punishment, for sustained combat, and for the kind of grinding attritional warfare that Russia has chosen to wage. This is where the economics become extraordinary. And if you share anything from this analysis, share this part. Greece priced each transferred M110 at approximately $520,000 per unit. 60 howitzers, roughly $35.9 million in hardware. The remaining portion of the $230 million deal covers the 150,000 shells, bringing Ukraine's effective cost per round down to approximately $1,300 per shell. One shell, $1,300, capable of destroying a Russian tank worth several $1,000,000, capable of obliterating a supply convoy, capable of degrading an entire forward operating position with a single direct hit. The return on investment is not just favorable, it is strategically decisive. Ukraine needs to eliminate only a handful of high-value Russian assets to recoup the entire cost of this transfer many times over. Now ask yourself this: if Greece still holds 85 additional M110s, and Spain and other NATO members hold their own aging stockpiles. What happens if the operational performance over the next 60 days proves as decisive as Ukraine's commanders expect? The answer is already embedded in the structure of Western military support. The Pearl framework, the prioritized Ukraine requirements list, allows NATO member nations to purchase weapons directly from U.S. stockpiles and transfer them to Ukraine. As of December 2025, NATO allies had funded over $4 billion in packages through this mechanism. Pearl gives Ukraine direct agency over its own military supply chain. What arrives is what commanders actually need, not what is politically convenient to donate. If additional M110 barrels exist in American storage in recoverable condition, Pearl is the mechanism most likely to move them forward. The 52nd Artillery Brigade is currently deployed in the operational zone surrounding Kramatorsk, one of 4 major urban centers, comprising what analysts describe as the Donetsk Fortress Belt, a defensive architecture spanning approximately 50 kilometers. Holding Kramatorsk is not symbolic. It is structural. Lose that anchor, and the entire eastern defensive line faces cascading pressure. Russia knows this. Ukraine knows this. And now, Russian formations advancing toward that corridor are encountering 98-kilogram shells arriving from positions 30 kilometers back, from a weapon their planners had categorized as retired and irrelevant. Ukraine's kill zone strategy makes the M110's role even more precise. Ukraine doesn't try to stop Russian formations with firepower alone. It channels them, using anti-tank obstacles, dragon's teeth, minefields, and barbed wire barriers to force Russian mechanized columns into specific corridors, and then it saturates those corridors with layered fires. The Bodana provides precision at depth. The RM-70 Vampire provides volume against mass formations. The M110 provides the heaviest punch in that entire arrangement, 98-kilogram shells dropping into channeled formations at ranges that allow Ukraine's crews to fire and disappear before the counterstrike ever arrives. Russia has reverted to the logic of 20th century attritional warfare: massed infantry, armor pushes, artillery duels measured in shell counts, and supply lines stretching hundreds of miles across exposed terrain. That is precisely the kind of war the M110 was designed to fight, not against a peer adversary with fifth-generation air power and satellite-guided precision, against massed formations, against fortified positions, against exactly what Russia is currently deploying across eastern Ukraine. There are honest limitations to acknowledge. The M110 requires a full-trained crew to operate effectively. Its rate of fire is modest, approximately 1 round every 2 minutes under normal conditions, with a theoretical maximum of 2 rounds per minute during sustained fire. Its onboard ammunition capacity is just 2 rounds, meaning logistic support must stay close. These are real constraints. But against an enemy fighting with the doctrine of a different century, raw destructive power at range outweighs rate of fire. Ukraine's engineers have already demonstrated a consistent ability to field-modify Western platforms in ways their original designers never anticipated. And there is every reason to expect the M110 will receive the same treatment. Russia's strategic planners are now facing a howitzer they had written off, arriving in active combat, in the hands of crews with 2 years of live-fire warfare experience, integrated into one of the most sophisticated layered artillery architectures of any active conflict in the world. That uncertainty alone carries battlefield weight. A weapon born in the Cold War has found its purpose in a conflict that, in its most fundamental dynamics, the Cold War's architects would recognize immediately. Russia chose to fight this war with the logic of a different century. Ukraine just answered with hardware from that same century, and it is working. If you found this analysis valuable, like this video and share it with anyone tracking this conflict seriously. Drop your assessment in the comments. Do you think the M110 transfers will trigger a broader NATO surplus artillery pipeline? The debate is worth having, and this audience is equipped to have it properly. Subscribe if you haven't already. We publish new battlefield intelligence analysis every single day. Not weekly, not when it's convenient, daily. Because in a war moving this fast, yesterday's picture is already outdated.